Hey YouTube, it's your boy Zach, coming at you with probably the first time I've ever done this. In fact, it is the first time I've ever done this. I'm going to do an amateur deck profile, and I call it amateur because I'm not a meta player. With that being said, I do try to make my decks as playable as possible, but although I would probably bring it to locals, I don't think it's anything that would even barely top at a YCS or regionals, but nonetheless, I still play them because I like the decks, and hopefully you guys will too. So I'm going to do my favorite deck today, which is my Synchrons, because I love Synchrons. They are my favorite deck in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! It's the deck that I've worked on for probably ever since 2009, I think. Whenever the Duelist Toolbox starter deck came out is when I started working on Synchrons, and I have arguably spent the most money on this deck alone than any other deck I've ever had. And I've had a couple decks. So we're going to go ahead and start it. So you need 3 junk Synchrons. And there's quick draw decks and there's junk Dopple decks. This one I'm just going to say is more of a junk Dopple. So, but in either build, you pretty much almost always need 3 junk Synchrons, because when he's normal summoned, you get to summon a level 2 or lower monster from your graveyard to the field in defense mode. Its effects are negated, but you don't usually use them anyways. He is really what gets off a lot of synchro plays. Probably the best tuner in the deck next to Jet Synchron, I would think. But so yeah, you need 3 junk Synchron. And some people might be kind of surprised, but I really only play 2 quick draws. The reason why is because, like I said, this is more of a junk Dopple deck, so the biggest emphasis is on junk Synchron. And even though, with that being said, people still usually play 3 quick draws anyways, out of the Synchro deck, which I'm not going to show yet, I really only have 1, 2, 3, 4. I only have 4 monsters that even need quick draw Synchron, and because you can reborn him with a few cards, I just only feel like 2 is necessary for my deck. It may not be the most fastest, because usually ones that have 3 quick draws are really fast, but this one, like I said, it's an amateur deck. And then also, this is something that might change. I only have 2 Jet Synchrons. I actually have a third one, because I have this version of my Synchrons, and then I have another version which is kind of more reminiscent of the anime and the manga. So I have 1 Jet Synchron in there, because it's the best Synchron level 1 tuner, way better than Unknown Synchron and Turbo Synchron and Changer Synchron. This is what we've needed for such a long time, and I feel like it's what's brought this deck back into the light. But even with that being said, I usually only just run 2 of them. There have been times, I admit, where I regretted not having a third one, mainly because when I use Accel Synchron's effect to mill 1 from the deck, if I've already milled 2 of them, then I can't mill another one. So sometimes I really need 3, but if I play the deck good enough, then I really can just get away with 2. But one day I might get a third one. And then I don't really see people do this much lately, but I incorporate the plant engine into the deck. I like the plant engine. I felt like the plant engine has been a huge support for the Synchrons for a long time. I mean, Quick Draw Dandy Warrior won like a huge championship back in like 2009 or 10 or something like that, and it had the plant engine in it. But I mean, that was also when like this card was at 2, which is crazy, and there were other cards present as well. But the plant engine has been a major part of the Synchron deck for a long time, and I mean, this makes a lot of tuners. Well, this one's not a tuner, but these 2 are. So if I was going to add another Jet Synchron into this deck, I think I probably would take out Spore, because I feel like Glow Ball is a bit more versatile. But Spore is the one that can increase its level to, if you get rid of Dandelion, it can go up to 4, which is pretty good. But if I was going to add a third one of these, I probably would eliminate that and just leave those 2. But for now, like, I have this plant engine, which is part of the reason why I only have 2 of these. So there's the plant engine, and then I have 1 effect Veiler for the final tuner in the deck. But even though he's a tuner, which I still think is kind of cool, I pretty much just use him for monster negation. I don't even think he's that good right now, though, because there's a lot of stuff that can't be targeted, which kind of sucks. But it's okay. It still has helped me out before when I go against like the lower tier decks. I mean, I negated Judgment Dragon with it one time, so I really like having it just as a 1. I think it's cool that they produced it in the structure deck. Now, this is kind of an old person's choice, but I also had 3 Reborn Tengus. Reborn Tengu came out in Extreme Victory, which was one of the very last, in fact, I think it was the very last set of the Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds era. And I remember when this card came out, for a while, it was worth about close to $10 a pop. It was only a super rare, but so many Synchro decks used it. And you could kind of sort of use it for an XC deck as well, but Synchros and Scraps, they use the heck out of this card. Now this card's like maybe $1 or $2, I really don't remember. But I like it a lot because there's a bunch of times when I can summon, you know, like a glow up bulb or something, and then sync for 5. And then I have like a level 5 monster, and then another Reborn Tengu pops out. What really sucks though is when you draw these cards in your hand, you want to try to only have 1 in your hand, because if I draw and I have 2 Reborn Tengus in my hand, it really sucks. So sometimes you really kind of sucks to have them, but if it goes right, which about at least half the time it does, then Reborn Tengu is a good way to thin the deck out and provide a really large amount of like synchro summoning material, because it's level 4. I have 2 level leaders. I used to have it at 3, but sometimes I thought that 3 was a little cloggy, because I don't really have that many ways of sending it to the graveyard. I just have Mathematician, and I have 1 Foolish Burial. If I had more ways of getting into the graveyard faster, I probably would. I mean, there also is Quick Draw Synchron, but I'm talking about from the deck. From the hand, it's no big deal, but from the deck, I have trouble getting it out sometimes. So I really just only have it at 2. But Level Leader is also, you know, just, it's really good for level manipulation. What I like to do is whenever I bring out a Trishula, then I will make it level 8, and then I'll summon like a Formless Synchron, and then I'll tune those 2 together to summon the Stardust, the new Stardust creature, the level 10 one. I can't remember, but it's in the deck profile. So I'll show you when it comes out. So that's all actually no, that's not all the monsters, sorry. I have 2 Dopple Warrior, because even though this is the junk Dopple deck, Dopple Warrior is still pretty much better only at a 2. I like him because he special summons himself from the field, from your hand, whenever you use your, the biggest play is if you have like a level 2 or lower in your graveyard, you summon the junk Synchron, and then let's say I summon Level Leader. Then I can summon this back. Or usually if I'm going to summon him, I'll end up summoning a tuner such as this one or Jet Synchron, so that when I do these for 5 and make like TG Hyper Librarian, then I'll tune the level 1 tuner with one of the tokens, and then I'll get Formula, and then I can draw 2 cards. So that's usually what I like to do with the Dopple Warrior play. But he's just so good for the deck. And then I didn't have these in at first, but I went ahead and put them back. Cobalt Hedgehog. The way that this deck goes, a lot of times I don't like to summon Cobalt Hedgehog through the effect of Junk Synchron. And when you have a tuner on the field already, I just really like his ability to just bring himself back. Sure, he gets banished, but hopefully one day I can get a card like Cyfran Lord Omega, or if I could ever figure out how to put Imperial Iron Wall into the deck, which I'm still trying to figure out because you really want to keep this deck only at 40 cards. If I could put Imperial Iron Wall in the deck, then this would be great, you know, but alas. So then I have 1 Rush Warrior. I really like this card because although I really don't have that many Synchrons at Warrior in the name, I do have Road Warrior, Stardust Warrior, Drill Warrior, Jet Warrior. So I have about 3 or 4 monsters with Warrior in their name. So most of the time I don't ever get his effect, his Bujingi Crane effect. Most of the time I don't. But it's just really cool how when he's in the graveyard, you can banish him to add a Synchron, any Synchron monster from your graveyard to your hand. So I can get back my Junk Synchron, or I can get back my Quick Draw Synchron. He's just really good for it. So then I used to have like 3 of him, but lately the way that the Synchron deck is now, you really don't need to have 3. In fact, 3 is kind of cloggy, and you really don't even need to have 2. With that being said, I do have a second copy in the extra deck because I really don't have much of an extra deck for this anyways, but definitely at least one. And Alinthio kind of is what made me go put this at 1 because I saw that and I was like, really? But one of these is actually really all you need. Sometimes you might need 2, but really just 1 Synchron Spore is all you need. And then I'm just going to go ahead and do these together. Spell Striker and Mathematician. Spell Striker is really good because you can just summon him quite easily by banishing a spell card. He's easy level 3, but sometimes I actually have used him to attack directly, and that's pretty trollsy. And then Mathematician because he's the Foolish Burial, and most of the time I'm not able to get his draw effect because either he's sent from the field a different way or I use him as synchro material, but I like to send, you know, the Level Eaters or the Dandelions. Just he's so good because he can send pretty much nearly every monster in my deck to the graveyard, and that's why I like him. I kind of wish he wasn't at 1 now, but it's okay. Having one of them is good, and this is the secret rare version, so I'm pretty happy about that. So moving on to the spells, this deck, even though Reinforcing the Army is out at 1, it still is pretty good at searching. I have 3 tuning and 1 Reinforcement of the Army. The tuning is great because I got 8 targets in the deck, so it's usually really good at adding them to my hand. And then this one, since I have the tuning, I don't usually use this. I mean, if I don't have a Junk Synchron in my hand already, then I will use it for Junk Synchron. Otherwise, I will usually get like a Dopple Warrior or something like that, or Spell Striker, you know, because it's easy. Just activate this, bring Spell Striker to your hand, then banish this to summon Spell Striker. So, but this one, I like how you can mill card, how it makes you mill a card, but I don't ever mill good. You know, I'm not gonna mill like a cool synchro material that can summon Junk Synchron. Oh no, I'm usually milling my Regekis or my Dark Holes, so that kind of sucks for me. And because I don't have Twin Twister, I'm still playing Mystical Space Typhoon. Twin Twister's a lot better because, you know, it pops 2 back row, and discarding cards, if you have a lot of cards in your hand already and you're just trying to get some fodder in the graveyard, then discarding is okay. But just pretend that these are Twin Twisters. And then the Warrior Returning Alive, he's good, kind of for the same purpose as Rush Warrior. I thought about just taking this out and having 2 Rush Warriors, but having 1 Rush Warrior and 1 of these, I feel like is good. And then Regeki, I actually pulled 2 of these. Whenever these came out in Premium Gold, Return of the Bling, I pulled 2 of these in the same one. The other one's in my Lightsworn deck, but they kind of move around from deck to deck. But I'm just so happy because Regeki's still like a $20 card, even though he's had a couple reprints. And then Dark Hole, just 1. I might bump it up to 2, but just 1. Then Pot of Dichotomy, I don't really know how I feel about this card yet. I like it mainly to return some of my Synchro monsters because I only have 3 level 5 Synchro monsters. So if I've already gone to like my Quasar plays and then I want to go into Stardust Warrior, whenever I use Pot of Dichotomy, it's mainly to return those Synchro monsters. Or like 2 Synchro monsters in a Junk Synchron. So, but then he has to be the first card that you activate for your main phase 1, or else you can't use it for the whole turn, which really sucks. But I still like it because it puts monsters back in the deck, and then you get to draw 2 cards. But Pot of Avarice is so much better, but we're probably never going to get that back. And then 1 for 1, Enemy Controller, and Foolish Burial to wrap up all my spells. Enemy Controller, because I generate a lot of tokens in this deck, it's pretty easy. I used to have Mind Control, but this is a quick play. You know, it's a quick play Mind Control. Mind Control, you obviously don't need to tribute anything, but I still feel like this is better. Yeah, sure, it targets, and it kind of sucks. We're getting into an era now where you really can't target anything, but I still like Enemy Controller because you can, you know, change battle positions or sacrifice one of your tokens and steal one of their monsters, if they can be targeted, that is. Which, it's mainly just like the Cosmos and stuff that can't be targeted, but a lot of the stuff now that's in Shining Victories can't be targeted, which kind of stinks. 1 for 1, because you have a lot of targets in the deck, I can get out my Level Eater, my Jet Synchrons, my Plant Engine, so it's good. And then Foolish Barrel just to, you know, it's like Mathematician, send more stuff. And then I only played 3 traps. In fact, this deck usually doesn't even play traps, but I have the Mirror Force. I'm thinking about changing it to Torrential Tribute because Torrential Tribute is usually a lot more live than Mirror Force, because Mirror Force you have to wait for them to attack, and let's say they summon like, I don't know, Cosmo Dark Destroyer or something, they can pop the Mirror Force before it ever does anything to them, but with a card like Torrential Tribute, then if they have effects that go off that could destroy any of your cards, well, then you can just activate it. So although I love Mirror Force, I'm thinking about taking it out for Mirror Force for Torrential Tribute. And then Solemn Warning, because Solemn Warning is still really, really good. And this is the holo version. But I thought it was really cool how they also reprinted this. The cards that they reprinted and the Synchron Extreme Structure deck were just so amazing. And then here's another idea that I kind of got from Lynthia. I think this one came out in Breakers of Shadow. But it's Reject Reborn. I like it, but once again, just like with Mirror Force, you have to wait for your opponent to attack. And you're like, okay, that's not a big deal. Sometimes it is, because they might just pop the card already or whatever. So sometimes, like I took out Call of the Haunted to put this in here, but sometimes Call of the Haunted is more live than this one. So I guess it kind of depends on the duel, because some duels I would prefer to have these, and other duels I would prefer this to be Torrential Tribute and this to be Call of the Haunted. But with that being said, if you can't get this effect off, it ends the battle phase, so it's a battle fader, or a Swift Scarecrow, I guess you could say. And it summons a what does it summon? It summons a Synchro monster and a tuner. So, because it says tuner, you could basically make both of those Synchro monsters. It doesn't have to be like a non-Synchro tuner. It could be literally, you know, you could summon your Formula Synchron or your Axel Synchron, and then maybe like a TG Hyper Librarian or something, then the next turn go into Stardust Warrior. Or you can just get Stardust Warrior back. So the fact that it can summon any Synchron or Synchro monster is cool. But like I said, it can be slow sometimes. So I spent a while doing that. So here's the extra deck in no particular order, but I guess I'll start with the lower ones. I have Excel Synchron. Excel Synchron's great because he can. I don't usually use his effect to summon during the opponent's turn. But it can be handy though if you feel like they're going to do something, because trishing during your opponent's turn is so funny, and I've done it before, so I like that. Plus his ability of permanent level manipulation, like when you manipulate his level, it's not just to the end of the turn, like his level is going to stay at whatever you manipulated it at. So I like usually making him go to level 6 or something and then downgrading him a level leader. Of course, even if you didn't do that, you can still downgrade him because he's level 5, but even so, like, it's good to be able to manipulate his level just so that you can use it for level eater. And then TG Hyper Librarian, you are freaking dumb if you play Synchrons and you don't play TG Hyper Librarian, because this is Synchrons remain consistent only when you have the ability to draw cards. So other than Stardust Charge Warrior, this is your guy to draw cards with. I mean, you can draw so many cards with TG Hyper Librarian if you can get it off right, get off the plays right. Photon Pulse Dragon. I decided to put this in here other than a Formula Synchron, because this can basically be a Formula Synchron. You know, it can be anywhere from a level 1 to a level 4 tuner, and the ability to have that much level manipulation is really cool, because who would have ever heard of a level 1 Synchro tuner? It's impossible, but Photon Pulse Dragon can make it happen. The only problem with Photon Pulse Dragon is if you use his ability, you cannot special summon for the rest of the turn unless you perform a Synchro summon with this card, and then that's it. So, but I use him because there's times when I feel like this deck needs at least one level 3 or 4 Synchro monster. So because Photon Pulse Dragon can manipulate his level, then that's why I got him. And I got him in the Mega Tens, because at first I wasn't going to get him at all. But I think that, oh yeah, and Jet Warrior. Jet Warrior, so much better than Junk Synchron. I mean, I love Junk Warrior, but Jet Warrior being able to spin a card back to the opponent's hand is great. And plus, you can tribute a level 2 monster. So like if you have a Dopple Warrior or whatever, just tribute that Dopple Warrior and then summon Jet Warrior. It gets banished, but being able to just summon a monster that has level 5 stars, you can go into Quasar, you can go into other plays. It's just so good. We really needed Jet Warrior for such a long time. So, and then I'm thinking about taking this out for, or in fact I want to take it out for Stardust Charge Warrior. I ordered Stardust Charge Warrior in the mail. It hasn't come in yet, but when I do, this is probably going to take out. This card, I would put this in a side deck, because the thing about my Synchrons is this deck really needs to be able to have 20 cards in the extra deck, because 15 is just not enough. But this is basically the Gaga Cowboy, because obviously this deck doesn't play Blackwing, so I can't use the second ability, but being able to inflict 800 points of damage to your opponent, then make one of their opponent's monsters lose 800, he's got a good utility. But I would probably take out him to put, depending on the deck I was playing against, for Stardust Charge Warrior, because Stardust Charge Warrior lets you draw a card immediately once it's summoned, so it can really help you continue those plays. But anyways, so now I have Drill Warrior. Drill Warrior, he's a target for Quick Draw Synchron, and I like him because of his effect to just remove himself, and always keep adding monsters back. So he's your way, he's kind of slow, but he's your way of adding any monster. And sometimes, if I'm going to Synchro Summon, instead of adding a monster to my hand, I'll just add one of my Synchro monsters back to the extra deck. It can be slow, and sometimes not always worth it, but you really have to play this deck properly. You can't just be this deck all willy-nilly. You have to be smart when you play this deck, and you won't run into many problems. Because this deck, I've worked on it for so long, and I think I finally got a good mix. So, Black Rose Dragon and Junk Berserker. Again, I like this because I can blow up the field, but I would probably, you know, in the side deck, I don't have it right now, but I would probably put Moonlit in the side deck so that sometimes I would just switch them out. But having one or the other, I feel like is a necessity for this deck. And I did have Nitro Warrior, and I took Nitro Warrior out to put this one because he's a bit better than Nitro Warrior. Nitro Warrior can really OTK your opponent if you have the right setup, but this one, I can banish one of my Junk Synchrons from the graveyard to make his attack power become 4,000. So, you know, right up there with Quasar. And the fact that whenever he attacks a face-down defense position monster, yeah, or just defense position in general, you know, it's just automatically destroyed. So, and the reason why I got him is because I want to be able to make level 7 plays, and sometimes I don't want to make this one. So if I can't make this one, then I can't make Nitro Warrior with Junk Synchron. So with this, I can use either Junk Synchron or Quick Draw to make him, and that's why I have him as my other level 7. Because I feel like this deck always needs at least 2 level 7s. And then for the level 8s, oh my gosh. Okay, I'm going to present these two first and the third one. So, here we go. I have Hot Red Dragon Archfiend because he's kind of like a dark hole for the field. He just destroys everything. I want to put Scarlight in this deck to replace him, but dude, Scarlight is like $22 now. I'm going to have to wait for that reprint though, or maybe just whenever I feel like spending the money, because I've built Despots recently, and that was like $30, $40, so. And plus, I'm about to show you a card that cost me $16 for this deck, so it'll be a while before I can run Scarlight. And until then, this one is just what I'm gonna have to play. The Road Warrior, because Road Warrior gets off your Quasar plays. He lets you summon a machine or warrior type monster from your deck that's level 2 or lower. So you can summon Dopple Warrior, but more often than not, if you're going for Quasar, you're gonna summon that level 1 tuner Jet Synchron. And then, okay, bam! Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon. Yeah, baby, I got this card. Clear Wing is still a lot better than this card because this card is basically half of what Clear Wing is. Clear Wing can use its effect twice, whereas this effect can only be used once. But even so, whenever this card like battles a special summoned monster, I think, or no, whenever it battles just a level 5 or higher monster. So it's got to have a level, it can't have ranks, but whenever it battles monsters with levels and it's level 5 or above, it's got 3,000 attack points. So whatever monster is going to attack, it's going to gain that monster's attack. So you're going to be inflicting 3,000 damage to your opponent. Plus you can negate their monster effects, and even though you need a non-tuner synchro monster, you can use any tuner. It can be like a Junk Synchron, you know, like I could use Junk Synchron and Jet Warrior and summon this. So it's really easy to summon, and I wasn't sure if there was going to be another price spike, so I got it at 16, but this card I feel like helps the deck out so much because it's level 8. I'm so glad it's level 8 because if it was level 10, that'd be kind of difficult. And now we have the Formula Synchron. I usually put this in with the Stardust cards. This is it, Stardust Warrior. Stardust Warrior is still really good because he stops Pendulum summons, I believe. And, you know, he stops all those inherent summons. So since Pendulum's an inherent summon, I think, it just negates it. And then it can summon a level 8 or lower Warrior Synchro monster from your deck. And then, obviously, you need Quasar. Quasar is one of the win conditions for this deck. You have to play Quasar. And then finally, you already saw Trishula, because Trishula just, it's so good, and I'm so glad we have it back. Because before Trishula, I was playing Mistworm. Mistworm is a good alternative to Trishula, but Trishula, non-targeting, removal, banishes 3 cards. Like, you really need Trishula. And then for the extra deck, I have this and this, because at first I just had a 17 card extra deck, but you know, I was like, Zach, you can't have more than 15. So sometimes for certain duels, I feel like I would need to take out maybe the hot Red Dragon Archfiend and put Stardust in, because Stardust is literally my favorite Yu-Gi-Oh card ever. He's not quite as good as he used to be, but Stardust is literally my favorite Yu-Gi-Oh card ever made. I really love having him. And then this one, because sometimes I can actually destroy like quite a few cards with this. If you have a lot of tokens, like if you have Quick Draw Synchron and 3 tokens, you can get rid of 3 cards. So although he's not as good as he used to be, sometimes I feel like Junk Destroyer is good tech for this deck. And once I put Stardust Charge Warrior in this deck, I want to be able to put in Moon Mirror Shield, because Stardust Charge Warrior only has 2,000 attack points, but if you give it Moon Mirror Shield, then it's always going to have 100 attack points more than whatever it's battling. So, you know, basically it can run over all monsters your opponent controls and destroy all of them with Moon Mirror Shield. Moon Mirror Shield, I don't know how I'm going to put this in yet, but it's a good card. And Cartomize, because I feel like if I was to put this in this deck, I would probably replace it with, you know, I would probably replace Pot of Dichotomy with this, but Cartomize is good for decks, but it's good for mainly the decks that don't special summon a lot, because although I think you can, no, you cannot special summon the turn you activate this effect, so this sucks, you know, and the fact that I can't special summon. So this would be good for probably, I don't know, just, I really don't know what it'd be good for yet off the top of my head, but I have it in there because, you know, it's a $16 card, just like Clearwing, and I wanted to be able to have it if I needed it. Call the Haunted in case I'm going to replace Reject Reborn. Bottomless Trap Hole, because Bottomless Trap Hole can negate Pendulums like crap, dude. It will destroy all of those Pendulum monsters. So this is side deck for Pendulums. Torrential Tribute, because it's more live than Mirror Force. Debris Dragon, probably I would almost never go adding this card back into my deck, but sometimes he's good. Limit Reverse, probably not put this back in either, but this is what I used to have because I like that it just gets rid of itself off the field. I don't have Magic Planet or anything, so I don't like cards that take up a spell and trap card zone. So I always had this because it would just get rid of itself, unlike... And most of the cards in my deck anyways are like 1,000 or less attack, but I got Call the Haunted in case I wanted to get Synchros back. And then, just in case I was ever going to add 2, you know, if I ever wanted to, this is the second Synchron Explorer. So that was the deck. I feel like the deck isn't bad. It's pretty alright. Like I said, I've worked on this deck for so long, so many years, and it only just keeps getting better and better as we get more Synchron support. And I wanted to put Norton in this deck, but I mean it. Unless Konami makes it so that we can have a 20-card extra deck, there's so much in this deck that just can't fully be utilized. Like not being able to have Shooting Star Dragon, you know, to use it with Quasar. Because with Quasar, you're really only able to use the first half of its effect, because most people do not play Shooting Star. But if you like this deck profile, I'm probably going to be starting to do a few more, but they're amateur though. So it's just mainly for fun / budget, but they're still playable. They're still playable. I hope you like this video. Subscribe for more, and see you later.